thanks everybody for jumping in. We'll just give it a few minutes to make sure that everyone who registered get a chance to log on, and we'll get started here in about 2 minutes. I apologize if you can hear my son upstairs. Hopefully he settles down.
So here, I'm gonna let you show up there. Trying to get you so you can be.
Hey, can you mute?
Okay.
Can you mute?
Well, are we starting?
We're live.
Okay. All right, well, I think we should go ahead and get started because we have a lot of information to cover. So we are recording. So anyone who is not online right now will be able to watch the recording after. But first of all, welcome. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. This is for the Emerson Park Transit Stop Transformation. This is our second design workshop. We are so excited to have you here. We've been hard at work on this project, and I think you'll be excited to see what we've come up with tonight. Again, the project partners are Citizens for Modern Transit, AARP St. Louis, St. Clair County Transit District, and then CBB, where I work, is the prime consultant on the project, working with PGAV on the design components. All right, so a little bit about a quick agenda for this evening so you know what to expect. We're going to start with some introductions. We'll do a brief summary about the project, and then we'll also follow up with some survey results about a survey that we had online after our last design workshop. We'll talk a little bit about history and culture and its role in placemaking. We'll then go through our design ideas and concepts at this point. We'll talk about next steps, and then we'll leave it open for question and answer at the end. All right, so introductions. My name's Jackie Knight. I'm a multimodal planner with CBB, Transportation Engineers and Planners. We are a local transportation planning and traffic engineering firm with about 50 years of experience in the St. Louis region. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Catherine, to do an introduction for her and her firm.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Homaker. I work at PGAV as an urban planner, and I'm leading the design team from the PGAV standpoint. We are a firm located in downtown St. Louis that's designed destinations and places around the world. So we're excited to work with CBB and the other partners on this project.
And then also from CBB on the call tonight, we do have Sean Light. He's our vice president and COO. So he's been the principal on this project, and he can give a quick wave. See, he turned on his camera. Thanks, Sean. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kim to just do a quick introduction introduce herself, and then we'll do the other project sponsors after that.
Thank you, Jackie and Catherine. We're so happy to have everyone here this evening via Zoom due to COVID, but we really are excited about this project in East St. Louis and our partnership with the St. Clair County Transit District, AARP in St. Louis, and Metro Transit to really do this transformation of what is now a gray blank canvas into something that's exciting and innovative and interactive for both riders and residents around the Emerson Park Station. So thank you everyone for joining us. Please weigh in on what you like and what you don't like, because you are definitely shaping the future and the vision for the Emerson Park Station. So thank you.
Sheila, if you want to wave or say anything about AARP.
I just want to echo what Kim said. We are very excited to be a part, to continue our partnership with CMT and Metro on transforming a station, this station in particular. I encourage you to share this information with your friends and family, anybody you think might be interested, to encourage them also to weigh in on this very cool project. Thank you.
Sheila. Thanks, Sheila. And then we also have Ken Sharkey from St. Clair County Transit District.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate everyone for being here this evening. I had an opportunity to view what Citizens for Modern Transit and AARP in St. Louis did a project in Maplewood. I was very impressed with the work there, and I thought it would be an excellent opportunity to try to repeat that success here in Illinois, and we selected the Emerson Park Station to try to do this, and I'm very appreciative to have the support of our St. Clair County Board of Trustees, who we have with us tonight here. One of our trustees, Tony Perrin, who is an East St. Louis native.
All right, thanks, Ken. And then we also do have Mary Ann Taylor-Crate from Added Dimension doing public engagement for this project as well. All right. So just some quick general meeting notes. I did want to go ahead and remind everybody this meeting is being recorded. So if you want to go back and check something we said, or if some of your friends or family members or coworkers couldn't make it tonight, please encourage them to watch the meeting and look at our concepts. The CMT website is at the bottom of the screen, so you can visit that website to get a lot more information about this project, as well as how you can continue to be involved. And then at the bottom of the screen, there is a Q&A box. So we are going to leave time at the end of the presentation for questions and answers, but please use that question and answer box as you have questions while we're presenting. And also anything that we don't have time to answer, we are going to stop at 7 so we can be respectful of everybody's time. But anything that we don't have time to answer, we will certainly follow up with an email after the meeting. So let's jump right into the project information and survey results. Just a little bit of quick information about the project. This is the Emerson Park Transit Stop in East St. Louis. Just wanted to show the proximity in the St. Louis region and how it's a nice quick commute to downtown St. Louis and all the surroundings items that are by it in East St. Louis, just so you are a little bit more familiar with the area if you are not already. And also showing some existing conditions pictures. So this is what the Metrolink platform looks like at the Emerson Park Transit Stop. There's this neighbor's grocery that's connected to this nice senior housing development. This is a nice place to, maybe go get a cup of coffee, or I know they have barbecue for lunch, but this is pretty close to the transit stop, which is a very nice amenity. There's a lot of bus service that passes through the Emerson Park Transit Stop. So there's about 6 or 7 of these shelters that line the walkway leading up to the Metrolink platform that's just on the other side of this shelter. And then there's actually a really big parking lot. So because of the quick commute to downtown St. Louis from the stop, this is a really important stop for park and ride service. So people that might drive their car to the transit stop, but then take transit to finish their work commute. Now we are seeing those patterns decline a little bit during the COVID-19 pandemic. But remembering this parking lot as an asset as we build back from the pandemic is definitely something that our design team is considering. So very quickly, what our main project area is. There's a lot of ground at the Emerson Park Transit Stop, so we're really trying to focus on where we can put in work and really create this community space and this gathering place for people. Like Kim mentioned, it's currently a blank gray slate, which gives us a lot of opportunity to make something beautiful and wonderful. So we're really focusing on from the bus stops, which start just a little bit back from this picture, this big gray area right here. There's like a little Metro Plaza in front of this building. And then this kind of focuses around. So this big gray slab of concrete right here is really our primary project area. This is another vantage point, again, facing back towards the bus stops, as you can see where they line the walkway. And then just a little farther up, another vantage point. Something that we'll talk about later is, what is the opportunity on this gray wall over here, for something to be eye-catching and something that's a little bit outside of the primary project area, but again, another area of opportunity at the transit stop. So we had our first design workshop about 3 weeks ago. That was really an introductory workshop to talk about what the project was, give some information about placemaking and play spaces, and then just go through elements that our design team would consider in this project. After that public meeting, we took some information from that presentation and we put a survey online. We also had our public engagement team going out with the help of St. Clair County Transit District ambassadors and interviewing people at the transit stop. We had about 82 respondents. Most of these respondents were from Illinois. When we asked them how often they visit the transit stop, we had a lot of people that visited once per week or less than once per week. Then the next highest number was 4 to 7 times per week. So, people that we talked to were definitely using this transit stop when they're commuting on a daily basis, as well as just for random trips. And then we also asked people how they get to and from the stop. Most people drive a car to the stop. Some people that we talked to were getting off the Metrolink and hopping on a bus. And then, other people were taking Metrolink and bus and walking. But again, you can see that a high percentage drive a car. So thinking about how can we create a space for people that are parking their car and then, waiting to get on the bus or the Metrolink. Also included in the survey is we started getting at what type of design elements people would want to see at the transit stop. So we asked about shade preferences. One thing that we found in our initial existing conditions analysis was that there's really not a lot of shade. So we were there on a very cold day in January, but I can imagine on a very hot day in July, there's really no place to get respite from the heat of the sun. So it looks like people were a little more interested in the more colorful, playful option, but people did mention in the comments that, this table underneath it might be influential in their decision because it shows a place to gather with other people while they're at the stop. We also asked about seating preferences. So right now at the stop, there's some pretty standard, very utilitarian benches, but could we do something fun with seating to liven it up? Ken mentioned the project in Maplewood, so they added gliders. What are some options? Most people were interested in this more so artistic, fun bench. One thing to note about this is, again, there's places for multiple people to gather. So we kind of are seeing a little bit of a theme in that type of preference. We also asked about public art preferences. So are people more interested in seeing something on the ground or on the fencing? There's a lot of fencing at the stop. Maybe something on the bus stop. And then, I mentioned that wall for the potential for a mural. A lot of people were very interested in this mural option in terms of public art. Lighting preferences. We asked about lighting. We didn't get a really clear response on this. A little bit of the majority was interested in this more like practical pathway lighting opposed to this decorative or projection lighting. So we are going to try to follow up with a question tonight and potentially in our survey online about if lighting is added, what would we see as the benefit of that lighting? We also asked about bike parking. So bike parking is definitely a useful component for people traveling on the stop. It can also be a very significant placemaking component. People were more interested in these very useful racks, but also with the colorful element. We asked about wayfinding. Most people were interested more in this very useful wayfinding in terms of transit lines and not so much the decorative wayfinding. So we are going to follow up on that with another question about wayfinding just to try to get at what people were thinking when they were choosing this type of wayfinding as their preference. We also asked about landscaping. This is a very clear preference for these more decorative planters. This is definitely more of like a useful landscaping in terms of stormwater management. And this might, it is a little bit more of an aesthetically pleasing. People in the comments also mentioned these trees, if the trees could provide a little bit of shade when they are full of leaves. But then also the square and I guess, kind of round, but it's more of a square component, make it easy for a circle of people to gather around this and talk again while they're at the transit stop. And then we asked about sound preferences. So we didn't get a very clear picture here. You can see these pictures that we were able to include are a little bit more popular, but we'll follow up with some sound questions about what do you think could be an element of sound at the Emerson Park Transit Stop. So that covers our survey. And like I said, we're going to be posting our concepts online after this meeting. But now we want to talk about history and culture. And this is something that's really important to our design team during the design process. So what is the importance of history and culture in placemaking? It's really critical to think about this so that we can be very inclusive of our community's history in the public realm. We want to make sure that public spaces welcome and inspire people while harnessing the culture of a place. We really want to make sure that we draw out the culture of that place in the design process. How we're going to do that is we're going to very intentionally integrate the arts and culture community in this community engaged design process. So that's why we're having these design workshops. That's why we're going out to the transit stop and talking to people, because we really want to get input from the community about what inspires them, what they think of when they think of East St. Louis, what the essence of their community is, and how we can play on that in the concepts that we develop for this stop. A few examples that I wanted to show just so we kind of can get a little bit of a better understanding about what we're talking about. These are some murals from the Grove, which is a neighborhood in St. Louis, the city of St. Louis. You can see this mural over here does a really excellent job of honoring, famous St. Louisans that have had an impact on the city or on their community. And then this mural over here is a branding element, not only for the neighborhood, but it also calls out some, very popular destinations in the neighborhood with the cityscape in the background, really drawing on that St. Louis history. This is a much larger scale, the Gateway Arch, but it really does show an example of bringing our history into our monuments that are in our public realm. So this is a monument to the gateway to the west, to people traveling west. And again, it's a much larger scale, but you can see how that element of history has really shaped the way this monument is viewed in St. Louis. Another example of a mural is in San Francisco, California. This is more of a grassroots type mural, but it plays on the importance of the yearly animals in the Chinese culture. But then they also, I thought it was creative, they use it as a wayfinding component. So it says places to visit, and it highlights some of the local staples and neighborhood shops that have been important to the neighborhood. This is called the Lobster Crawl. That's in Plymouth, Massachusetts. So, lobsters are a very important component to that community. They're a big part of their industry in terms of fishing, but then also for commerce and tourism. So what they did is they actually put on parade, if you will, 29 of these decorative lobsters all throughout the city that people could go find and take their pictures with while they were visiting the community. Another example of bringing this in is the Love statue in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This really plays on Philadelphia being the city of brotherly love. So you can see here, there's a lot of really great ways to incorporate the history and culture of a place into the public art and placemaking component. We have another example, but I'm actually going to turn it over to my colleague, Catherine, to talk about this, because this is a community that she's worked with significantly, and then she'll take the presentation on from there.
Thanks, Jackie. So hi, everyone. On the screen, you'll see an example of Triangle Park in Asheville, North Carolina. So Triangle Park is a public space in the historically African-American part of Asheville, which also happens to be kind of on the fringes of downtown. And so as part of developing their community and really figuring out how to honor this part of their history, they dedicated this public space and decided to line the public space with murals that honor important pieces of the history. And so for this, it meant honoring the historically African-American high school, Stevens Lee, which you can see the bears and the images of the band members, and then honoring famous Ashevilleans with murals, which is the purple one. And then, creating a timeline of important events so that when people gather in the community space, It serves as both a placemaking element and a place that people can gather to have community, but it also honors those important pieces of history. So when we think about, then you want to go to the next slide for me, Jackie? When we think about creating this space at the Emerson Park Transit Station, we really want to think about what they did in those examples Ashley and Jackie and I talked about. When we think about what is the essence of East St. Louis and what's the important history and culture that you all think of, what are those things that make you feel like you're in East St. Louis? And so, you know, there's things like the city crest or the city of champions or the history of jazz in the city. And so that's okay. We just want you all to start thinking about that. So as we go through the rest of the presentation, if you have ideas about things that come to mind or colors or famous people that really make you think of East St. Louis, go ahead and put that in the chat for us so that we can start generating a list of things that maybe should get incorporated into our murals or our design process. Okay, with that, I'm going to get into some design ideas. So Jackie, here's the primary project area. Jackie talked a little bit about this, but I really want you all to focus in on that existing open space you see in the middle. So you can see that the bus shelters are to the left, and then Metro Plaza and the route to get on the train platform is to the right. And then there's the pedestrian path from the parking area to Metro Plaza. But there's really nothing in that existing open space. And so it's an opportunity for us, but we have to keep in mind kind of the circulation of the place and how it functions when we think about what we might put in that existing open space. So again, you can see some design goals that we're thinking about when we think about what we might do to transform this space is to maintain that pedestrian movement. So as you saw on the previous slide, there are all those important nodes at the transit station, and people really need to be able to get from one to the other. So when we think about design elements, we've got to think about keeping that pedestrian flow. We also want to make sure that we're enhancing the current gathering spaces and creating new gathering spaces that have shade and seating and are really an enjoyable place to sit. We also want to think about adding green elements. There really isn't very much green in this space right now. There's some trees that line the parking lot and some grassy areas, but that's about it. There's also not a lot of character or playful elements. So we would like to figure out how to incorporate the city's history and add some of that character and playful elements to this new space. So when Jackie went through the visual preference survey, we sort of got to pull out some themes based on what people thought sort of resonated with them when they think about this space. And so one of the things that emerged is that people were interested in sort of a more conventional bench idea that you could gather with more than just you, with a group of people that would cater to people of different ages, both kids and elderly members could sit on these benches, but that looked cool. You know, the benches that are there now are really sort of standard. And so what are some slightly elevated benches we could incorporate? So this is that primary project area. So for the next few slides, what we're going to do here is we're going to layer some of these elements on top of each other so that you can start to see what this primary project area could become when we add in these design elements. So this first one is that example of that kind of curvy yellow bench. So adding benches would create some seating options that cater to lots of different kinds of people and then create gathering spaces. The next thing we might throw in is bike racks. So adding practical bike storage, but keeping it out of that flow of pedestrian movement. There was also a really strong preference for these freestanding planters that could add green space to the area, be relatively low maintenance, and also add some color, whether it's in the planter or in the green itself. So then if you think about how could we take just a standard planter and turn it into something a little bit more playful, we've kind of shown an example here of just a standard planter. But what if you put a piano on it or a measuring tape, something that could take that planter from just being a place for greenery into something you could really interact with if you were a kid? So those are the kinds of things we'll be thinking about when we think about how to not just integrate trees or greenery, but integrated in a way that really creates a more playful, colorful space. So you can see here, we've added some green space to break up the existing gray space and then utilize trees for additional shade near those benches. The next thing people were really interested in is figuring out how to get rid of all of that gray concrete. So the area is just full of gray concrete and it's in great shape and it serves its purpose, but it's just not very fun. And so when we're thinking about creating a space that people will enjoy being in, one of the ways we can do that is to use paint. And so some of the examples here on the screen, the music notes were something they used in New Orleans to create a path. And so we thought that was a good idea, or creating maybe a maze on the ground that would add a playful element for children. And so figuring out how to use paint to create a playful element, in help with pedestrian movement and add some color. You can see here's sort of a whimsical pedestrian path created with music notes that might maybe honor the history of East St. Louis as it relates to jazz. So that's just one idea that we could kind of brighten up the space, but then also have it serve a secondary purpose. And then there was a strong preference for a shade element that was really colorful. So something that could bring shade to the areas where people would be taking a break and taking a seat in the heat of the summer. And adding those on to the design concept. Perhaps they would be over near where we might put the seating, providing the shade element over the gathering space, and then adding more color and visual interest to the currently pretty gray space. So then outside of that sort of primary project area, there are all these other ways that we could influence how the space looks and feels. So one of them is utilizing bus stop wraps. So the images on the screen are conventional, sort of traditional bus stops, but they've used public art to sort of amend one side of them to make them a little bit more colorful. So that's an idea that we might consider for those bus stops just right to the left of our primary project area. We're also considering figuring out if we can add color to the existing ticket center that's just on the other side of Metro Plaza. Again, it's just a gray building, but is there a way we could amend it to add color and a little bit more life? We're also looking at carrying the design to other entry points. So thinking about how you get to the transit stop from the other side of the tracks, or if you walked up from the parking lot, what are the ways that we can really create a cohesive design that allows for you to interact with the space regardless of the way that you enter it? We'll also look at a mural on that pedestrian bridge. So the pedestrian bridge, which is kind of behind the primary project area, is a really great asset, but it's a big blank gray wall underneath. And so it's an opportunity to think about another mural, more colorful space in the area. We'll also look at sound and light elements, if that's a way to add sort of a creative element to the space, and then bike parking. Okay, so we've run through a lot of materials for you. Jackie and I are going to engage you all by asking a few questions. So in the next few slides, you'll see some questions that will help us guide our design concepts. So the first one is, when you think about all of those things that we ran through, what kinds of colors would you like to see incorporated into the design? So whether it's a color that makes you think of East St. Louis, or a color that really resonates with you as a bright, colorful space would have, or if you're interested in more greenery, think about those sort of things and think about what color makes the most sense to you.
All right. All right, it looks like we have just about everybody in.
Okay, so it looks like there is a pretty strong preference for red. So I know red is the city of East St. Louis's sort of city color. And so I wondered if that might resonate with people as part of the identity of the place. Okay, so one of the things Jackie talked about is that we didn't get a lot of clarity from the survey or the last design workshop or our conversations with people about if additional light is needed as part of the design. So when you think about the space, do you feel like it needs more light when you visit? Yes or no?
Well, we might have everybody that's gonna vote, but if you want to vote, get it in. We're gonna stop the poll. All right, I'll go ahead and end it. And very interesting.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so not a super strong leaning, but interesting that people say yes. Okay, well, so the next question I believe is a follow-up to that. So if light was, I think, right, Jackie?
Oh, yes.
Great. If lighting was incorporated in the design, what do you think the primary purpose should be? So should we be thinking about lighting that helps with security? Should we be thinking about lighting that's more of a decoration? Or should we be thinking about light elements that act as more of a branding component?
All right, looks like we have just about everybody in, so I'll go ahead and end the polling.
Interesting. Okay, so some people do consider it perhaps a security need, but first was decoration. So interesting to know. Okay, another thing Jackie mentioned earlier was that preference for more kind of practical wayfinding signage. So when you think about using this transit stop, walking there, driving there, do you think it needs more signage? Do you feel like when you walk around and move through the space, you could use more signage?
It looks like some of the words got mushed together, but the question is, do you think the transit stop needs more signage? Again, just to reiterate that from the slide.
All right, this one's kind of a mixed bag as well. So these are the kinds, when we get these kinds of sort of split votes, it probably indicates that we will put it on the next survey. So with the next concepts, you'll probably see some of these questions again, but it'll just be a way for us to gauge a broader audience to get a sense of making sure our designs are really useful based on what the community needs. Okay, so thinking about the elements that we showed sort of layered on top of each other, which are the most important to you? So you should be able to choose two. So thinking about seating, landscaping, paint, or shade. Looks like maybe you can only pick one.
Let's see, if you pick your favorite one, and then if you want to if you want to type another one in the chat, we'll just kind of look at the poll results and what we get in the chat combined. So if you would please send some ideas in the chat, then that would be fantastic. Just went ahead and ended it.
Okay, interesting. So it looks like shade is the top vote getter. And then there's a couple folks in the chat that wrote seating and shade. So that seems to be the most important things. Okay, so of the items considered outside of the primary project area that we talked through, so not in that main gray space, which are the most important to you? So a mural on the pedestrian bridge, those bus stop wraps that we talked about, amending the existing shelters, entry point design. So that meant pulling some of the elements from the design in the main area to the other side of the station, perhaps. Sound elements, additional lighting, or bike parking. So again, you can probably just pick one, and then you can add a second into the chat if there's another thing that really resonates with you.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end it. It looks like we have most of the results in.
Interesting. So it looks like it's tied with the mural on the pedestrian bridge and then bringing the design to different entry points. So the mural on the pedestrian bridge could also serve as that, bringing some of the design out over towards the other side of the parking lot, followed up by bus stop wraps. Interesting.
Thanks, Catherine, for the presentation and for running the polling. So like Catherine mentioned, we will be putting our concepts online the start of next week to get feedback. But then we'll also likely be including some of these questions that are still a little bit split just as we finalize the details of the design. So that gets us into the next steps and how you can continue to be involved in the project. So after this, PGAV is going to take these design ideas and your thoughts, and they're going to turn them into 2 formalized concepts. So I'll basically have an option 1 and an option 2 that combines all these elements that we've been talking about tonight, or a lot of these elements that we've been talking about tonight. We'll put those concepts online March 8th through the 12th. So we'll be able to get a survey link out for that. And take that survey and spread it around for people to take the survey to give input. We really want to turn this into a community space for everybody in East St. Louis, and also for the transit users that use the stop frequently. And then we're also going to be out in person. Hopefully we get weather as beautiful as it was today, or as it has been the past couple days, in person on March 9th and 10th. We'll print the concepts out and we'll be able to talk about those and get some feedback from people at the transit stop that way, so that we can get a little bit more in-person feedback. We have our design workshop 3 scheduled for March 23rd. You can actually scan this QR code on your screen and it will take you to the CMT website to register. And at this meeting, we are going to be showcasing our near final designs. So these will be very close to being finished, showcasing them to the community for some final feedback. And we'll also get your feedback at that meeting. So with that, I guess I'm going to open it up for any questions. And I don't think we have anything in the Q&A box. So I don't know if it looks like we have some good chat over here about bus stops and some seating concerns, which we're definitely going to be taking this chat with us. We've also seen some really great ideas in terms of the options. I saw, City of Champions and highlighting different champions from East St. Louis. I think that's a really cool idea. Some sort of Olympic tribute to Jackie Joyner-Kersee is another really fun idea also. Yeah, I guess if we don't have any questions, we can probably go ahead and end the meeting. Catherine, do you have anything final you want to say about the next design steps, or people just be on the lookout for our concepts that go online?
I would say, yeah. So our designers are going to be busy this week coming up with 2 options. So 2 different ways that we could use the space, that the space could look, to really take into account the feedback we've heard so far. So we are excited to publish those online. And as Jackie mentioned, have them out at the transit stop to get some understanding of people's thoughts next week. And then we'll refine them and get going for hopefully the summer.
All right, so with that, again, My name is Jackie Knight. I'm a multimodal planner. I've put my email address up there. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Always happy to talk to people about placemaking, and especially this project, because I'm really enjoying working on it. Also have Catherine's contact information up there. And then we posted that QR code again one more time to bring you to the website and go ahead and get registered for our next design workshop. And again, look for the link to the survey online next week. And then if you want to come out and chat with us in person, March 9th and 10th at the Emerson Park Transit Stop. Do our project sponsors want to say anything before we close off the meeting?
I just want to thank everyone again for attending. And I also, if you're interested, please share the link with your neighbors, your family, your friends, your coworkers, anyone that you can help us spread the message about, because we really do want this to be a homegrown vision for Emerson Park Station. And we want to hear from stakeholders in East St. Louis about what you'd like to see at this station. So please share the word that there are lots of opportunities to weigh in, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you again.
It's Ken Sharkey. I'd like to thank everyone for participating, and I'm very impressed with the level of work that's put into the project so far. So it's coming together, and I'm really looking forward to the actual implementation and how it's going to turn out. So I'm one of those kind of people that you have to kind of like see it in place to really appreciate it and understand it a little bit better than the stuff that's on a screen. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for all your efforts.
Okay, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Again, feel free to share the link to anybody who could not attend the meeting tonight. This is going to be uploaded to the website as we were recording it. So with that, take care and stay healthy. Have a good night.